interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Hotep, I am that I am. Some call me Haru, your modern monk, your cannabis fitness strategist, back at it again. Here with you with another episode number 95. We talk about the surveillance pandemic with special guest, my brother Gene. Shout out to you. What's good with you, brother? Welcome back.
Yep, it's Gene Cynic. Being cynical, as always. So this is an interesting topic because you were telling me about how you had a quarantine.
Oh, yeah, I'm still in quarantine, live from the quarantine right now, even though it's my place. But they've been doing some interesting little things here, I notice, even with my particular issue, because I've been utilizing, I've been taking it off, my phone off, I've been turning it off, or I've been putting it in airplane mode. And I noticed a few things that was going on. They send me a little message saying, "Oh, have you checked in today?" You see what I'm saying? So it's like a little
There's something called a Faraday bag. Have you heard about it?
I'm familiar with Faraday. I mean, the concept of Faraday. Back in the day, the physicist. But tell me, give me more information. What's up?
So a lot of people who they were protesting this summer and last summer, they were using Faraday bags so they weren't tracked because, there was this big issue with the U.S. using a spy plane to, harvest people's data and bounce it back off the towers and whatnot so they could see where they are. They were geolocating them. So people use the Faraday bags to block all major signals with 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, all that.
Yes.
So it's an RF shield. So so you should get if you're really concerned with this. By the way, I'm not getting sponsored, right? So go online, go somewhere and buy a Faraday bag or a Faraday cage. So, and that's what when you were telling me about like your quarantining, I'm like, are they forcing it? Like,
yeah, they definitely.
The reason I asked. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they definitely forcing it. They got it where it's interesting because we're on an island, right? We're on an island and we're considered an international. We're considered like cross seas per se, like China or anybody else or Germany. You kind of see what I'm saying?
Territory.
Yes. So basically what's been going on, all the measures of more control are implemented within this island. And what's crazy about it, soon as it's already corrupted here. It's a lot of corruption going on out here in Hawaii. A lot of people are kind of a lot of people ignore it because they're used to it, if that makes sense. That's where I'm having the problem because I'm coming from the States. I'm coming from the mainland, as everybody would say. And I'm seeing some things. I'm like, wow. So I go to California. They have certain things where you don't have to be vaccinated or you don't have to take a test to go into their state. You're not getting quarantined. You see what I'm saying? Certain states like that. Don't take me wrong. It's certain states are in the mainland that you have to do it, I guess. I haven't experienced that. All I know, Washington, Alaska, and California didn't have it, right? But soon as I come back to Hawaii, I have to be tested. And it's interesting enough, this was just my observation. I'm thinking to myself, most of the people who's claiming the COVID, who has the flu or whatever this crap is or whatever the illusion is, they're here. They're locals. They're not people from outside of here bringing it in here. You kind of see what I'm saying? If that makes sense. It's kind of weird, but it's most of the people who actually been here 5 to 10 years. You know what I'm saying? Who already have issues. That's another story.
People don't really talk about this, but the people who are, suffering from the virus tend to be people who are overweight, or they have smoke problems, or problems with alcohol, or just anything that gives you a low immune system. And from my understanding, I think people in Hawaii have a high rate. Is it high rate of obesity over there?
Yeah, big time.
I pretty sure there was one there, at least for like the mainland.
Yeah, no. You're right. You're right. Heart attacks was another area because the diabetes is super high out here, and you can see it in the people. Yeah, you can see it in the people. You know.
And anyway, the reason why I asked you this because the way they enforced it and like and I'm gonna call them out for what it is. The surveillance state that is China. That they were a good example of showing you the worst case. Not worse as in like in terms of infringing upon people's civil liberties and human rights and all that stuff. But they would force you to download a app so they could track you.
Yes.
That's how they would do it over there, from my understanding. And so I heard a lot of things. I heard even videos of people with their houses getting welded in. People were quarantining themselves by putting blocks in between certain areas.
Oh yeah, you shouldn't have seen what was going on here. I mean, literally, what they did. Soon as I got here in March, soon as they started, really talking about this quarantine situation where it was actually mandatory for people to be quarantined or stay in their homes, yada yada yada. They really tried to enforce it by putting walls up over the different companies, businesses out here. Literally, I got pictures on my YouTube, not my YouTube, but my Facebook page as well as my Instagram, where I'm showing you the walls that were built on these big ass companies like Louis Vuitton and all these different European brands, these big ass brands that's been well known that a lot of people, especially these rappers, be pushing. They literally put walls up there for the so-called homeless to stay out. That's what they claim. And I also just sent you, Brother Gene, I just sent you a text. I sent you a picture of what the information that I was given far as why I have to be quarantined for the next 10 days. So you can read that on your phone right now. It was just a screenshot. But that's basically what's been going on,
oh wow! So if you don't text them, like you might, you will get imprisoned up to 1 year. Wow. Okay. And here's the thing though. If they're gonna, I thought they were, releasing prisoners at one point because there was a COVID
mandatory
cases, skyrocketing.
Yes. Agree. Yeah.
Prisoners.
Yeah, especially in Alaska.
They were wanted to get released because of this. They were emboldened by the idea. Oh yeah, we got COVID. Release us. All these felons, I can imagine, they're wetting their pants.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that's interesting that they would say go to prison. Where I thought prison is where a lot of this is happening.
Great point.
A lot of that the COVID cases are skyrocketing because of the close proximity of the prisoners.
Yes,
right? Especially the crowded environment and all that, right? So interesting how people break their own rules. But anyway, I wanted to talk about the surveillance pandemic with you. We've done that kind of got me interested in talking about it again because we haven't released this episode on our Watchdog series.
Okay. Oh yeah, I was under impression. Yeah, y'all already did. So I was like, I wanted to go.
We recorded it, but we haven't put it out yet.
Oh, got you. And I'll be curious to hear what y'all, what y'all, especially with, I know what you got, kind of sharing with me, but Gene and Mac and
Dio.
Yeah, just on that level, what they had to say about it, because it's definitely an interesting topic, and it's definitely something that we all got to deal with each and every day. Outside of our homes, even inside of our homes, with our phones actually recording us. And then we're wondering about, how did I get this ad? All of a sudden this ad is coming up, and I just was talking about this with a friend. And what's crazy about this, that scenario, we was recognizing that back in 2013. Me and a good friend of mine, we was talking, and we happened to look at our cell phones, and actually it had the ad popped up. Far as what we was talking about, I was like, wow, look how ironic that is.
Well, that's kind of an issue from the past that's still ongoing, But with the surveillance pandemic, the whole point and philosophy of the this topic or series really has to do with how the technologies that were created for the for COVID to mitigate the impacts of COVID, or they were emboldened by it.
Yes,
Certain companies were profiting off the fact that COVID is a thing, and that is the whole point of this topic. So that's why I call it the surveillance pandemic. So we have the pandemic going on, but you also have another pandemic ongoing. So a lot of people, a lot of watchdog groups, civil liberties groups, they are having a field day with all the things that people were proposing.
Sure.
Very unconstitutional, inhumane things. So a good example would be, I guess I told you Clearview AI. Clearview AI wanted to track coronavirus patients, and Clearview AI. And I'll tell you what the person who was challenging it was a senator. He said, and it was Markey, a member of the Senate Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee, said in a statement, "I'm concerned that if this company becomes involved in our nation's response to the coronavirus pandemic, its invasive technology will become normalized, and that could spell the end of our ability to move anonymously and freely in public."
Wow.
And that company has developed technology that can match faces to a database of more than 3 billion images indexed on the internet, including social media applications founded by Juan Gonzalez and Richard Schwartz. The company maintained a low profile until late 2019, when its usage by law enforcement was reported on. So and that's the crazy part. So not only are these AI companies that use facial recognition algorithms to track people are becoming emboldened, but they're profiting off this pandemic in a sense, and they're secretive about it, right? They're selling our data to officers, to law enforcement officers. So, and I've talked about all this kind of defund the police kind of thing. I'm not on board with defunding the police, but I definitely am on board with holding truth to power, in the sense that things like this, data harvesting practices by law enforcement agencies, I'm not on board with that, and I think that it should be reformed.
Sure.
Have that right.
Yeah, and then the other thing is and this is another thing about these big ass corporations. We're not putting none of these motherfuckers on accountability. You know what I'm saying? Their accountability is not even there. That's the thing I don't understand. You telling me, and most of these, like Bill Gates, I'm sure he didn't have his. Don't take me wrong. It's certain things like I remember Madonna don't even have her children watching TV. They didn't grow up watching TV, right? There's certain things that people don't really take into heed. I mean, even like so-called Steve Jobs didn't allow them to use internet or use the phone, or whatever the case may be, his own cell phones, according to the results. But I don't even know if Steve Jobs had children. He had one daughter or something like that. But it's kind of interesting.
I heard that he never let them use
never use the technology. And see, right there should be indicators. That's what I'm saying. We pick up shit from these particular celebrities or however big moguls or whoever you want to, because I'm sure like even Elon Musk, I think Elon Musk had 5 children, to be correct. I think he got like triplets or some crazy shit, or twin.
He puts them in a private school.
Exactly, all that stuff, and I'm sure they're not dealing with a lot of the crap that we deal with on an everyday basis, or what we give our children going in these public schools. We know for a fact these public schools ain't doing shit for our children, period, hands down. We seeing that daily.
Personally, I think people should be taught constitutionality. I think the Constitution should be, taught about. And for example, how it relates to civil life. For example, the right to privacy. I don't think that's the scary part about this pandemic. That people are believing that privacy is a luxury rather than a human right. I'm an atheist, but a God-given right.
Sure.
It's more of a philosophical issue rather than a technological issue.
No doubt.
People were on board with it. They were informed and educated on these things and how important they were and how the value of it, especially for young females, right? Privacy is extremely important.
Sure.
If you're not, I have a lot of sisters and women in my family, and I'm always concerned with their safety, right? If they go somewhere, they go out to the gym, and imagine if somebody has information on them, a stalker. Information is power.
Sure.
If somebody is private, if somebody has privacy, you cannot control them because you don't have intel on them. If they don't have any privacy or anonymity, then you can harvest their data. It's intelligence collection.
Yes.
Reconnaissance.
Yes.
So
great point.
Another topic we talked about the watchdogs, but here's some icing on the cake, by the way, Haru. The global facial recognition market size was valued at USD 3.4 billion in 2019.
Wow.
And is anticipated to expand at a CAGR of 14.5% from 2020 to 2027. So not only are these companies having very questionable, data harvesting scandals, but now these companies are getting more profitable and they're getting more, more normalized.
And that's what it is, because we accept it. We accept it as normalized, even like all these Ponzi schemes they've been doing, and getting away. Now, even when you're looking at these businesses, what they're doing now, and it's not even about their associates. It's not about their employees anymore. It's really so beyond. It's like, how much more money can I get? How much more control can I get? That's the race. Who get the race to be control of the people? I'm guessing. Who can control America? Who can control the world? I'm guessing that's the mentality that's been going with the Jeff Bezos, even the Warren Buffett's, but he played like the background. Warren Buffett plays like the background, and him and those who's with him. Don't take me wrong. These are the people I'm saying, because we identify them as being somewhat, I wouldn't say they're the 1%, because the 1% is the ones that actually we don't see, that's making the big paper, that's controlling the Warren Buffetts and the Bill Gates and the Elon Musk, with surveillance technology, influencing them to do certain things that they wouldn't normally do, I would guess. That's just my take on it.
Well, my take on it is, I am concerned with some of these bigger, cult personalities, but at the end of the day, I'm focused a bit on the smaller for now, just because.
Yes.
That's my realm of expertise, and I don't know too much about that. But what I will say is that, of course, there's hidden hands at play. And for example, this Clearview AI company, they were secretive. That's the scary part. Not only were they harvesting not just a big amount of data, but crazy. So there's qualitative and quantitative data. So there's the quantitative data, meaning the amount of data, right? The scope of it, it's big. But the qualitative data, how interpersonal is it? How invasive is it? Who are you talking to? Who are your friends? What do you like? What do you dislike? What are your political beliefs? And Cambridge, not even, this is a facial recognition software, so not only is this surveillance company involved, but you also have the data brokers. You have the data brokers who are, surveillance. It's called surveillance capitalism. They're profiting on your data without your consent. It is usually your consent, but at the same time, how are we going to call it consent if they have a huge privacy statement that's unreadable?
Exactly.
To the point you get bored, you want to accept it, right? You know what I mean? It's like. So anyway, that's the tangent. But they're called data brokers, right? And there's thousands upon thousands of companies that do it. It's not just one, because it's not monolithic. The facial recognition software companies, the data brokers. These data brokers, there's countless of them. And the scary part about the recognition software is that it's gone up by like 20% these past few years, or 30%.
Wow.
And the scary part is that they're adapting. For example, everyone's wearing masks right now, right?
Yes.
So people are like, but these facial recognition software companies won't be able to track us. No. So they've adapted. There's this one company in France that they know how to their algorithms. They're teaching the algorithms how to adapt to the fact that they're wearing masks. So you know what they do? They check your eye contour shape. They check your eyebrows.
All that, yeah.
They check your cheeks. They check your nose bridge. So they have other factors now that'll help.
Oh no,
and also they put all these pieces of data together to make it so they can find you out.
Exactly.
So even if you're completely so that's the scary part about it.
Yeah,
so
it's pretty.
It's becoming a thing of the past now, you know.
Yeah, it's a trip because I mean, even a job I had a couple years ago working for Goodwill actually, and I think I shared this on the show you invited me on, the Wine Cynics. It was interesting because they had thumb recognition, right? Fingerprints recognition. And this is like Goodwill. The Goodwill's like I said, the third biggest non-profit organization in the world. You know what I'm saying? And they got thumb recognition. How many people are actually recognized? You see what I'm saying? All these facial recognition, all this other stuff.
You know, biometrics are usually used to identify criminals.
Yes.
Or people who are government agencies.
And so what they do
it's strange for them to use that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they hire. That's all they hire is majority of them hire ex-felons, right? Ex-felons, getting them back. Kind of like Home Depot. Home Depot do the same thing. Hire ex-felons. Period. Hands down. No secret about that.
Yeah, and it's not just here in the country. In this country, though, it's everywhere in the world now. Because you remember, again, so the problem with these, surveillance companies and their technology isn't, only the fact that it's used here. There's many aspects, many problems to it. And I guess it is philosophical. For example, it's also not just the normalization, but the exportation of it too.
Yes.
We're exporting it to different countries.
Yes.
And some other countries are we're importing it from other countries' technologies. For example, South Korea and Hong Kong, they've had a lot of privacy issues with their electronic. They've been using electronic trackers to help enforce quarantine, right?
Wow.
And also, like you said, in fact, people infected with COVID-19 data, it was being shared with law enforcement at one point. And I don't know, by the way, this is stuff from a few years past, so it might have changed by now. I'm just saying that the whole point of the surveillance pandemic is to show all the technology, or at least proposed technologies that are happening. Because the fact that they're proposing it, right?
Yeah.
Or even doing it at one point, sharing, your data with law enforcement. Why? So they can arrest you in case you try to break quarantine, you want to go buy groceries. Like, what is this?
Exactly.
And not even, right? Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing that's also, there's videos of people getting, arrested, because they have more than one person at their gathering, right? I think it was in Canada.
Yeah.
Look it up. They were getting pulled away from their family to be arrested, right? Because they had like one person, and then a low trusted society, and people gonna, snitch on the neighbors, like if it was like the communist there, right? In China, this is the communist. He's not a suspected communist, right? Either way, right? Because it happened to both.
Yes.
There was, I think, a proposed. It was proposed in Florida, in a very small county too, that you should snitch on your neighbor if you think they're not wearing a mask in their own house.
Yes.
Which is completely ridiculous,
Super.
I don't, what if you don't like your neighbor? I hate Bob. He's like, hey, I don't think Bob's wearing his mask. I'm gonna go call the cops, right? And then Bob, maybe he's resisting it because it's his own property. He can do what he wants, and then he gets his ass beat by the cops.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right, so that's the pandemic surveillance, but also the cultural decline. And on that, the thing is also, Biden right now, he's saying that he doesn't want vaccine passports, but I'm going to tell you that vaccine passports, that they're the worst thing because, it's one step closer to a national digital ID.
Yeah, exactly. Real ID, yeah, I'm familiar with you. And they've been talking about this for years. That's another thing I don't think people really be paying attention to. I mean, you can go to Zeitgeist and watch Zeitgeist. They was talking about this stuff in 2001 when we had this so-called 9/11 incident.
But you want a national, just a way. It's for more power, essentially.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, it's for more power. Yeah.
What
I
was
don't want to go on my tangent.
matter
I
of
want to
fact? I
go
think
and talk about the other thing.
yeah, because I think
Oh, we
Mac brought a good point. You know, what is this government really into? You know, these CEOs, powers. What is it? Power, sex, and money or control. Power, sex, and control. That's what it was.
Exactly. And it's not just this country. I'm going to go on the next dishonorable mention in the pandemic surveillance.
Nice.
You know, South Korean health authorities, they, quote unquote, legally use cell phone data, credit card histories, and surveillance cameras to trace infection routes. They're at least they're transparent. They're outright saying, you know what, hey, we did it legally, right?
Yeah.
We're using your cell phone data, credit card history, right? Remember when there was this Capitol incident here in the U.S. They were checking people's credit card histories to see if they went there. As much as I disagree with the fact that they did all that and went there, here's the thing with these technologies. You think it's going to be used against people you dislike, right?
Yeah.
Or, on the other political, that's the scary part again. It's a cultural decline that your fellow man, your fellow American, that we have dehumanized because of their different values and ideas. You're gonna normalize that. Credit card histories are being searched to see if they went to a well, it was a federal crime, but still, they have no. I feel like the credit card companies have no place to be with law enforcement, just because what if it. There's a potential, and even if it is a potential, there is slippery slopes in the way I see it.
Yeah, no doubt. I agree with you on
They
that.
can do it. If they can do it to your enemies, they can do it to you too.
Exactly. And that's all America's been doing anyway, or United States, or well, whatever you want to call this structure. That's all they've been doing. I mean, they've been testing all the infrastructures, testing everything else on these other countries. And we're seeing that, even though they've been testing it on us slowly, their little, pool of people they've been utilizing it on. But we as people, we think, okay, like Twitter, like I think, Twitter, 10% only uses Twitter. 10% usually that's effective on Twitter. That's crazy. That keep Twitter alive. And I think Donald Trump, like y'all was mentioning, Donald Trump was the one who brought it back alive. You know what I'm saying? Literally that's why I think Dorsey went and said, okay, I'm going to create Square and I'm going to develop this app called Cash App, period, hands down. Now it's like one of the biggest selling apps out there right now. Well, not necessarily selling apps, but user apps, finance, in the finance world, interestingly enough. So, and then he just purchased, and I mentioned this too in the show, he just purchased $427 million. He just purchased Tidal from Jay-Z's part of the company, and that's a streaming service that he was part of back in a couple years back. What was that? 2009, 2000, somewhere in there, 2008, somewhere in there. When they was debunked.
Jack Dorsey, and Twitter was, you remember, I don't know if you use Twitter, but, Dio used to use Twitter a while back, when this thing was starting, this COVID virus. And he was putting a fact check on anything to do with oxygen or frequency, because people, they were talking about oxygen frequency, so it's a funny thing that I know it's not technically an infringement on people's civil liberties, but it's a joke, that anybody, just mentioning oxygen frequency. I mean, you could be a scuba diver, you could be a chemist, you could be anybody talking about oxygen or the frequency of it, and they were just fact checking you. And that was a funny thing about Twitter. Also, Twitter was banning a lot of companies, or not companies, but just people trying to discuss the coronavirus.
Yes.
Because of,
yes.
Because of disinformation and misinformation, which, by the way, they're such dismissive terms, by the way. When you say disinformation and misinformation, I mean, it can happen. People can use it, but oftentimes people are just discussing it because that's what we're allowed to do. We're maybe we can discuss the medical efficiency of certain drugs, right? Because obviously I'm not a doctor and you aren't either, right? So
Yes.
I don't think we have a place in talking about certain things that we don't know about. But we damn sure hell can talk about how it affects us personally and on our lives.
Yes.
That
Agreed.
is for sure. And even if you aren't a medical doctor, I mean, if that's not against the term of services in Twitter, if you want to talk about it, I mean, if there's a bunch of people talking about it, I guess that's what they're scared of. But still, they're shadow banning people. And some of the stuff was right at one point. Some stuff they banned them because they thought it was not believed at that point that it was not true. But then it turned out it
See,
was
and
true.
and
So they banned them for no
and
reason.
who see,
Right.
and that's the thing I'm having with the problem with all these different services like the Facebook and all these other, who are them to tell you what is right and what is wrong? If you got your mindset, or if you got something, information you want to share with the people, share it with the people. Who are you to dictate? Okay, even with the situation with this so-called the issue with Donald Trump being hired as the president, when the Russian coalition came in and helped him out on Twitter and Facebook and all. Who are them to say anything about it? The forums is open, so why not? They have their freedom, and I don't even care. To keep it real with you, we might disagree on this, but I really don't care about. Well, let me back up. It's not that I don't care, but it's like certain things we got to start taking more ownership of. We got to start taking more responsibility of. How do you even allow somebody from another country to invade your invade your systems in general, if that makes sense? You kind of see what I'm saying? It's weird. It's weird, but why would you even want them, even though Facebook is a public service? That's what it is. It's public. It's out for the public, just like it's on the public record, right? That's basically what's going on here. But don't sit here and justify and tell me what I can and cannot put up there. You feel what I'm saying? Long as it's not killing nobody, hurting nobody, or stealing people's, or whatever the case may be. Because, I mean, we did have that issue with Craigslist. That's why we no longer use Craigslist, right? People coming up, killing, and doing all this.
Here's the problem with it. Even the fact checkers themselves are incompetent.
Yes.
And they're
Agree.
because a lot of the times they might say, well, I mean, technically it's true, but they might use a semantics argument. They might use a wordplay argument to say why it's not true or true, So that's an issue too, making these people the arbiters of truth. Because people, they put too much trust on that's the
Big
thing.
corporation.
No, humans just work. Yeah, not just corporations, but just people they have a proclivity to want to put accountability and trust people, which is good and bad, right? That's how it's kind of like a hierarchy.
Yes.
So people are like, you know what? I trust the fact checkers. They're fact check, right? Why would they lie? Kind of that thing, right? And it's like they put too much trust in it. And sometimes I go on fact checkers, and if I happen to, do my research and it seems to be adding up, then yeah, I'll trust it. But I'm not going to trust it outright just because they say they're fact checkers, right?
No, you're right. You're
You know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, brother.
But that's something that has, arisen because of the surveillance pandemic, I'm just, I wouldn't say an infringement on free speech, because I think that, there is an argument to that, whether or not it is. But I'll tell you what it is. What is definitely an infringement on free speech is, for example, in Germany. Have you heard of Dr. Andreas Noack?
No, not familiar. What's up with that?
So he was a doctor who was criticizing the lockdowns in Germany.
Okay.
So the German police, they came in armed and they arrested him and just they essentially kidnapped him from his own house. And,
Oh, wow.
Imprisoned him. And
Wow.
that's just by the way, a medically licensed professional, from what I understand. And even if it isn't, it doesn't matter.
Sure. Yeah, his rights been violated.
Criticizing the lockdowns. He's not even saying that it doesn't exist, or the virus isn't real, and then I'm going to go out and spread it, and then spit on people, and touch their hands and all that. Nothing of that nature. He's saying, he's not saying I'm going to go spread it, right, or it's going to indirectly lead to that. He's just saying, you know what? maybe these lockdowns are a bit draconian. Maybe it's affecting people negatively, and socially, and maybe there's too much domestic violence going on, and suicide. Maybe
Yeah, and it's a lot of records. Yeah. Matter of fact, yeah, me and
he was arrested, and this is something that was happening a lot in Germany and in the other the European countries.
Yeah, matter of fact, shout out to Dio and Mac. It was interesting because Dio, we was talking about some things about the situation with all the issues that's been going on with the suicide rates, especially of the youth, and some of the things that we've been dealing with this coronavirus kind of tapering down a little bit, I guess now, even though it's kind of amping up because people are you're starting to hear doctors come out with more truth down. They're like, yeah, they was paying us boom 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 to get these people, whatever the case may be. Now they're starting to come out with the truth, and it's funny too because I mean the truth, even though even though everybody have their, I guess, their medium or their way how they want to approach certain things, even though I still haven't seen no evidence of the coronavirus really existing. Keep it real with you. That's my opinion. You know what I'm saying? I know people going to be kind of, no, it happens. My family members and this and that. But when you really put it in perspective, it's definitely some questions that I don't think we're being asked. You know what I'm saying? Because people are going to die. We know this.
I personally know somebody who, I personally knew somebody who almost died of it because she was a smoker.
Okay.
So,
see?
And she got sepsis. Yeah. But the thing is, the whole point of this, this topic isn't about whether or not it exists.
Exactly. I'm with you.
How the surveillance pandemic, how surveillance is being emboldened,
Yes.
and how it's affecting us, in terms of our civil liberties. That's a whole other topic to talk about. And I mean, I can't, this is going off topic, but that's why I'm going to move on to the next one. There was a pregnant woman in Australia who was arrested. She was arrested over starting an anti-lockdown protest on Facebook. Have you heard of that one?
No. Go ahead. Because this is the thing with me.
She was a pregnant lady in Australia.
Because I know Australia been having it. They've been having some extreme stuff. Australia been on that extreme level. I mean, just far as what's been going on there. But like I say, I think they're standing up. That's the difference. They're standing up for their cause, and therefore they're getting all this, kickback or what I can't even say the term. What? That's what I think is going on there. They're like standing up for their rights, and they want to shut them down. They want to shut them down as quick as possible,
And I believe Australia has the right to petition the government. Not the right to petition the government, but the right to peacefully assemble.
Yes.
I thought that was something that they may have had.
Yes. That may be possible. I don't really know the laws out there. Really know the laws as far as Australia, but I know they've been having a lot of kickback. Due to, I think, because they're just tired of the shit. Just like anybody else, they're just tired of the shit, tired of the controlling, tired of the manipulation, tired of all the propaganda that's been going on. Because, see, that's another thing about the reality check, especially when I was doing the traveling. I'm looking at all these different states I was going into, and it's kind of funny how extreme they've been pushing. Oh, California's going crazy, this and that. Get out there, and it's not really on that level. Don't take me wrong. Like I said, it's been tapering off because I think people are kind of like, no, this is not, you're taking my right. Kind of like the 9/11. Like I said, we got amnesia. The 9/11 was the same situation. Well, not with the same scenario, but they was trying the same scenarios with the swarms, not swarms, but swine flu. And what was the other thing they was sending through the mail? They was sending something else through the mail back in the day. And you probably didn't know because you was a lot younger then, but what they was doing through the mail and some of the other rights that was getting violated back then in 2000. The Patriot Act. The Patriot Act.
But the craziest part about this is when it affects speech, though. That's the craziest part.
Yes.
When you're on a platform where they're starting, here's the thing about YouTube. sure, a company can have a right to, create their own rules. But when it's like an ever moving goalpost, when they're suddenly changing rules left and right before you can even adapt and know the knowledge of it, that's an issue with YouTube. I mean, YouTube bans medically unsubstantiated content, right? But what does that mean though? What is medically unsubstantiated, right? Because the CDC might say one thing that may be counterintuitive to what is really going on. I mean, from what I understand, Fauci was against wearing masks at a certain point.
Yeah,
but then
yeah.
he starts saying we have to wear 4 masks.
I know. And then the other thing, go ahead.
Yeah.
It's on you.
So that's the problem with shadow banning people on YouTube. That's and by the way, these are doctors that and doctors there's a need to study this and discuss things. It's not monolithic. Even it's a scientific. In science there needs to be debate.
Sure.
Everything any idea there needs to be debate. I mean, certain things I guess are debatable to a certain extent, like gravity existing. I get that, but when you're talking about certain things on how they're going to affect people's social, their psychological health and all those whatnot, there's so many aspects to it, and I just don't agree with any censorship of any kind.
No, and you're right, because it's so bad. I mean, it's not even we don't even that so-called, what's his name, Fauci. All these guys are paid. I mean, this is just my opinion about the situation. All these guys are paid to do what they're told. Period, hands down. From the Donald Trumps to the Bidens to the whoever you want to put in that office. If you claiming that they're particular, they don't have nothing. They're not. The people we're not seeing are the ones who's making these decisions. Period, hands down. Hands down. But we as a people, we got to start taking back our government. And what I mean by our government is we got to start standing up for our rights in general. Get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights.
So yeah, Bill was going through a few. He was going through a few of those anti-lockdown protests, but that's at this point, fighting these things, it's gonna have to be what you have to. It's a battlefield where you have to fight every type of battlefield.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a challenge. Definitely that.
Speaking of you traveling, another thing about the pandemic, that's changing things is, have you heard of what happened in Venice, Italy?
No.
So they're creating this, monolithic surveillance grid to track and trace everyone who enters and leaves the city.
Oh, interesting.
The city, and claims that this could be the future of tourism in a post-COVID world.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, and this is, that's an interesting. That is. What else can I say? There's the surveillance pandemic is around the whole globe. And here's the thing. Like I said, this is not going to end right here with COVID.
It's going to get worse. Yeah, it's going to get worse.
They're going to find a way that they can use it to make more money. Sell again, like for example, I think the cops were selling. They were paying for these COVID data. Because law enforcement has the money. They want as much intel as possible because they think it's going to do better for the world. No,
anyway, good point. Matter of fact, I would like to get you on the show and we'll talk more about issues with these officers, or the police force in general, what's been going on, especially with these coverted issues with these different military tactics that they've been using on us. But we don't really pay attention because what was going on even in Washington State prior to me leaving, it was a lot of issues where they was dropping more troops coming up in there, surveillancing the state of the people. You see what I'm saying? But people are not paying attention to this because we so fucking caught up in all the what's new on Netflix and what's new on the all these different channels, the Prime videos and all this other stuff. We so caught up in the minutia, I guess, of what's really going on.
Man, is that this is not new. We've known about prisons since like No, this
Exactly.
more than we've known about the omnibus terrorist bill, the counter-terrorist bill, right?
Yes.
Signed by Joe Biden back in 95, right? That was
Mm-hmm.
the precursor to the Patriot Act. So this is not new, but the scary part about it is that, you have the fact that this technology is advancing at an exponential disruptive capability, right?
Yes.
And then you have that, plus you have, it's been emboldened by this pandemic, that we need this technology to save people's lives. And there's profit in it too. So you have these three things, and it just exploded, right? So that's the scary part about it is, what China's doing, how they're going to export their technology, and for example, the local government of China in Jiangsu province, they launched a new social control system that it combines the health code program with the party's social credit score. They created a so-called, civilization code. The system gives each person a civilization
Wow.
score, which ranks them into different levels.
Wow. Oh yeah, I remember y'all sharing that with me.
And then it's used by the government to judge who gets priority or who should be subjected to restrictions or punishment. That is the fact. That is scary.
Yeah, that is scary.
They're already talking about the next pandemic, right? It's because they want to prepare and they should, but at the same time, who knows what will happen in the next one?
Exactly, because it's not. And it's not predictable. I mean, don't take me wrong. We don't know what's going to happen in that particular moment. But one of the things is, I know for a fact, everything that's been shown to us in the last 20 years or since we've been in this new millennia, it's been basically on TV. They've been showing it to us. They've been giving us the technology, what's actually going to happen. We're just so caught up in the entertainment value instead of really paying attention to what this so-called AI has been doing. And it's funny because they're trying to make it seem like the AI is some different intelligence when it's just the people or the mind of a human.
You have the human aspect. There is a human aspect to it. So what happens? You program into it. Yeah, I don't want to get into the AI.
No, we'll talk about this on a later day.
But I do have one last thing to say about the pandemic surveillance. The last thing is, people just wake up when you have drones enforcing social distancing. You have robot dogs in fucking Brooklyn, walking around, right? Without the consent of the people, right? They have a robot dog.
Wow.
I think it was created by Boston Dynamics, right? This is a company back in the day that was, just up and coming. But now, the police there should be transparency. The police should be telling us if they're using a robot dog, right?
Yes.
What happens if next time it's a robot human, right? And now you're a criminal because his code is malfunctioning, right? Really
Exactly.
And
Malfunction.
then you have facial recognition at all time high. You have thermal imaging cameras to see if you have COVID in China. Good luck. Hopefully you don't have the freaking flu or a cold, right?
No doubt. Yeah, you're right.
You have immunity passports. All of this is all going on all at once. It's in our face, right? Here's the thing that's weird about it. So we live in a transparent country and society. We know about this. That's how I know about it, right? Because it's reported on the news. We have freedom of press. But I don't think it's a problem of knowledge. It's a problem of philosophy and understanding the values. Again, that's why I made it watchdogs not just about technology, but about philosophy and history, right?
Yes.
Because when you look at the history of surveillance, going back to the beginning of civilization, it's always been used to, you use surveillance so you can find out what your political opponents are doing, right? The Watergate scandal, back in Mesopotamia, back in the Roman Empire. You send spies to see what people are doing, invade their privacy, to see, to gather intel and collection. It's for power, it's for control. Knowledge is power. And all this, like I said, it has to do a lot with the value of these ideas. And I don't know, even I kind of, cynical, can that be taught? Can people evaluate? Do you have to experience something where you understand why it's important? Because I think I don't know. There's even like most people who travel, they end up hating the country they come back to. Funny enough, like there are people who complain about how we don't have like high-speed rail systems.
No, you're right.
You're right.
Yeah.
And then when I came back, I'm like, I guess I'm only one of the only few expats who comes back to the U.S. and I'm like, man, I'm grateful. I'm grateful I can speak of these things. I'm grateful that I have different opportunities. I'm grateful that this country has issues, right? But at the same time, I was born here. I was raised here. My my family lives here. My friends live here. It is my nation. It's my country. So I know it sounds a little bit like I'm jerking off the USA, but have some gratitude, man. As much as these things, these constitutional amendments are slowly eroding away.
Yes.
It seems some people are trying their best to talk about it. Some stuff is getting a little bit better. At least with the one thing that I think is positive about the BLM movement is that they're putting the police officers in check with the data harvesting stuff.
Yeah. Good point.
I have some criticism of the movement, right? But I think that's a good aspect that people are like, some officers shouldn't have access to these kind of personal details on you, right?
Yeah.
You are innocent until you're proven guilty, and now it's like you're guilty and then you're proven innocent. I found all these things on you. I can already think, assume of your honesty and sincerity and whether or not you're a good person. This is a very dystopian thing.
Yeah,
and it's getting to the point where fiction is becoming fact. Dystopianism is becoming, slightly more and more. And it sounds like doom and gloom, but no, there's also sides where people are fighting. People are trying to talk about it. They're protesting. They're assembling peacefully. They're going to the governmental offices.
No, great point.
Like, for example,
Great point.
Electronic Frontier Foundation, based in Cali. They're hitting the data brokers where it hurts, right?
Yeah.
Over there in California, as much as I have my criticism with California and some of the things they're doing, that's one thing I can give. I'm charitable, right? I'm trying to give charity to these organizations and states. I can at least say that the one data harvesting, that the data brokers, they don't have as much of a foothold in California because of their privacy laws, because of the EFF, the watchdog group. So that's my final comments on this. Like, as much as the surveillance pandemic is a thing, you can see these technologies happen. By the way, this is research I've done, a few weeks ago. There's probably a lot more to this.
No, and you got a lot in. The points you bring up are very instrumental anyway. Because a lot of people, like I said, a lot of people just ignore it. We just go with the flow. That's the problem with the status quo. We just go with the flow, and we don't answer until it's actually affecting our homes. You feel what I'm saying? Oh, now my brother or sister got COVID or some sickness or something that we need the government or need the institution to come in and invade our privacy. That's when it's important.
The way I see it, it doesn't matter what race, color,
nope.
sex, all of this affects all of us.
Yes.
All of us as Americans should be at least unite on this. And I think most of I'm a constitutional absolutist for the most part on certain aspects, at least with free speech. I think everyone should be on board with that. That should keep us united. We shouldn't become like China. We shouldn't become like these other countries where they're willing to give they're willing to give freedom for a bit of the illusion of security. The illusion of security. That's the scary part. That's all I'm trying to say.
No, that's great point. Great point, brother. Great point. Yeah, and then we'll conclude it right there then. I appreciate you coming on, brother. Definitely for your insight and what you have been able to deliver and kind of give us some eye openers as well here on the You Are the Gym. Let them know again what's some of your handle or your social media, your podcast show. The brothers Mac and Dio. Shout out to them brothers.
Yep. They weren't here again. They're here in spirit. But One Jar Cynics, yeah. So One Jar Cynics. We talk about philosophy, but we also talk about what we call watchdog topics. So if you want more watchdog topics, like tech cynicism topics, we're slowly, but surely going up on that. Posting those on Rumble, BitChute, Odyssey. We're a bit slow, but we're gonna start posting on YouTube. But
Nice.
I have to do all the editing, you know. So
No, I'm with you. I get
you
it.
know.
Trust me. I get it.
But yeah, we're on all social media. We're on all podcast platforms. Yeah, you can also email us on our proton mail, whitecynics@protonmail.com.
Okay.
If you want to talk with us or give us an idea what you want us to talk about, we really want some engagement. So comment on our stuff. Check it out.
Yes.
Say what you agree or disagree with. We have a lot. We want to engage with people. It's about community.
Indeed.
At some point, I'm gonna scream into an echo chamber unless somebody else, comes and says something. Try to talk with that.
No, I'm with you, brother.
But I appreciate it, and hopefully we can have you on the podcast soon, and we can come with Dio and Mac.
No doubt. That'd be awesome,
It's
brother.
all of us.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Well, I appreciate your time, and thank you again for coming on. This is You Are the Gym. With your live love, peace, and happiness to y'all. We're out. Peace.
Appreciate it.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.